Chapter 17. While the FBI agents were taking Franny's statement, Ermeline Ransom was across the street having her first day in court, such as it was. Although Chris Sussman had brought her the decent clothes to wear to court, leaving the orange jailhouse jumpsuit in her cell where she had changed, the court appearance turned out to be much ado about nothing, as far as Ermeline was concerned. First, she waited around for half an hour after the custody hearing for Jamie. Thank goodness Chris had come through on that. Outside of her own mother, Ermeline couldn't think of a better place for Jamie to bide his time while Mom waited in jail than with Chris Sussman and Buddy Sussman and their 2 kids. The Sussmans went to the same church as Ermeline. Their daughter and Jamie did Sunday school together. They had the same teacher in half-day kindergarten, and the mothers were similar disciplinarians and love dispensers. Her son would never go without, and Ermeline was grateful and thankful to Chris and Thaddeus for making that happen at the last minute. Plus, Chris had an inner strength, probably from serving in the Army, that Ermeline had always wished for herself. The last 2 days had been frantic for Ermeline, and she had alternated between crying and glumly sitting alone and silent in her cell, watching the spiders and dust mites pass through her vision. 3 times a day she was fed. All 3 times were Silver Dome food, so she had no complaints. Charlie Alterman and the jailer even allowed her to choose from the daily specials. Now, the courtroom was about half full of people she didn't know, so they weren't from Orbit. She was quite certain of that. No, these were press people, from the local TV stations and radio stations, and there was even an AP representative there, though Ermeline wouldn't have known that. Something was definitely in the air, though, and she assumed it was only about her and the Victor Harrow charge of first-degree murder. She couldn't have known that the AP was following the FBI agents who had come to town that day. She couldn't have known that while the agents stopped in at the Silver Dome for early lunch, the AP reporter had diverged and come to the courthouse, as much to stay out of the way of the agents as to snoop around. But now the AP reporter found herself watching an appearance by a young woman, actually accused of murdering the man the FBI agents were known to be inquiring about. The AP had its sources, even inside the FBI, and when the AP reporter found herself in that courtroom at that exact time, she said a silent prayer. Serendipity was alive and well, at least in Orbit. At long last, Judge Prelate told the clerk to call the next case, and the clerk announced the case of People of the State of Illinois versus Ermeline Ransom, defendant. Ermeline stood up when she saw Thaddeus stand up, and he motioned her to join him at counsel table. She took her place beside him and looked directly at Judge Prelate. Judge Prelate had his glasses up on his forehead and was squinting while he read from the case file before him. Finally, he looked up and the glasses slid down to their proper perch on his nose. "Counsel," he said, "have you been given a copy of the complaint in this case?" Thaddeus spoke up, strong and firm. "I have, Your Honor, and I have discussed it with my client. We waive its reading in open court." "Very well. And you do represent Ermeline Ransom in this matter?" "I do, and I'll be filing a written entry of appearance later today." The judge smiled. It had been a busy morning for Thaddeus Murphy, and he knew that. "Very well." At which point, Rulonda Berry, the Special Assistant Attorney General who had been directed by the Attorney General to prosecute Ermeline Ransom, spoke up. "Your Honor," she said, in an equally strong voice, "the state requests that the conditions of release continue, that no bail be set." Thaddeus pondered this for several moments. "Your Honor, I will also be filing a motion today to set conditions of release. I'm wondering, could we have that heard first thing in the morning?" "I don't know about first thing, Mr. Murphy, but we can certainly come back in the morning for a hearing on Ermeline's conditions of release, if that's your preference. Counsel?" he added, looking over at A.G. Berry. "Tomorrow morning would be too soon for the state judge," she said. "I was hoping to have at least a week, so that I could become more familiar with the defendant and her connection with the community, so that I could participate in an informed discussion of her conditions of release."
"Nonsense," said Judge Prelate with a broad smile at the Special Assistant Attorney General. "You've had plenty of time to find out everything there is to know about Ermeline by talking with our sheriff and DA. We'll hear the bail motion in the morning. We'll start at 8 sharp. Madam Clerk, please issue the order."
"Yes, Your Honor," both attorneys said in unison.
"And preliminary hearing will be set 1 week from today, assuming there's no indictment between now and then. Same time next week."
Thaddeus felt himself warming to the coming fight. This was going to be a knockdown drag-out, and he knew it. Already, Sag Rolanda Berry had tried to draw blood, and the judge had quickly dispossessed her of that notion. Now they would go toe-to-toe in the morning. Thaddeus was determined to get reasonable bail set for Ermeline, something she could afford. And if she couldn't afford anything, he would ask for release on her own recognizance. Unheard of in Murder 1 cases, but hey, this was Orbit, and everyone knew everyone, and Judge Prelate himself wasn't out to get Ermeline. He had already proved that. Thaddeus was already drafting the bail motion in his mind. The court continued the case to the following morning, 10 a.m., and Ermeline left the courtroom in the custody of Deputy Sheriff Dale Harshman. There were no handcuffs, nothing to indicate she was even in custody, except an official hand on her elbow, guiding her along the aisle and out the doors. "Counsel," said Rolanda to Thaddeus, "would you like to meet and discuss this afternoon? I owe you discovery anyway." "What time?" "Too good?" "I'll be there, thanks." After the Franny statement, the two agents dropped in at the Silver Dome for an early lunch. They both ordered salads and iced tea. They asked if Bruce Blongier were available. They knew Bruce to be Victor Harrow's son-in-law, the ex-basketball coach who had been given Bruce's Juices, the package store, as his prize for marrying Marlene Harrow. Bruce had then parlayed the package store into ownership of the Silver Dome Inn. The agents were simply asking to see the owner. It raised no eyebrows, not even Cece's quivering antennae. "No," she told them. "Where might we find him?" they asked. "He'll be at his father-in-law's bus on the East End. Can't miss it. Purple Monster. Says Harrow and Sons on the side. Can I get you anything else?" Bang Bang's office was actually a converted 3-stall automobile paint shop in Skokie. The undercoat pits had been filled in and a new floor poured. 4 steel desks ringed the walls, and Bang Bang himself occupied the furthest from the anonymous steel front door. There was no sign on the place, and there was no phone number to call. Nothing to identify it from any of the other 50-some structures in the office park. But it was here that most of Chicago's mob business got decided, planned, and staffed. There was a small galley kitchen off to the east side, where a gopher made coffee and refreshments. Bang Bang was wearing his blue navy pinstripes, 2-toned Allen Edmonds, and a fat diamond on his pinky. His goatee was freshly trimmed. Every graying hair was in place on his head, and for once, he wasn't hungry. It was barely 9:30, too early to even think about lunch. Eating was his main addiction anymore, since he had learned he was impotent. It was the diabetes that had really taken hold and done its damage down below. Anymore, his one solace was the food, and the food he preferred was killing him. It was a bitch, and he wasn't happy about his life. Now he had some jerkwater lawyer down in Bumtown, Illinois, interfering with the scheme he had masterminded on Victor Harrow. Another bug to be squashed. Johnny Bladani sat beside Bang Bang's desk, just waiting. Bang Bang liked Johnny, always anxious to do the big guy's bidding, ready to kill or be killed on a moment's notice. Just be sure it paid enough, and he would literally do anything asked. "Just squash this lawyer, Thaddeus Murphy," he was told that morning. Don't bring me his head. Just make sure it don't work no more when you're done. Got me?
How much?
10 large. 5 now, 5 when you bring me the news clipping.
Done. Could you make it 15?
Johnny, what do you take me for? Have I ever screwed you? Are you calling me a homosexual?
I ain't calling nobody nothing. I'm just negotiating on price. 15 I'm asking.
10, and be damn glad you got it. This economy, everybody's got to pull their weight.
Just asking. I'll report back.
In person. No phones.
No phones.
Now get out of here. I got real work to do.